The COVID-19 pandemic may have shuttered bars for many months, but it has not dampened the spirit of whiskey lovers. A 60-year-old bottle by Scottish distillery the Macallan was snapped up in an auction for $1 million last year. Japanese Yamazaki and Karuizawa also sold multiple rare bottles for hundreds of thousands of dollars each. There's been a growing interest in whiskey as an alternative investment, helping it post a 500% growth in value over the past decade. That is according to Knight Frank's latest wealth report. Bob McNabb, managing director at Premier Whisky, is joining us now from Mexico City to talk more about the investment of whiskey and the growth that we're seeing in the market. Bob, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us today. I want to start by talking to you about, of course, you guys manage ultra-premium whiskey older than 60 to 70 years old. You had a project earlier on in the year where you saw an auction of a 72-year-old whiskey that fetched $54,000 in auction. What does that tell you about the whiskey market?
It's healthy. Despite the economic woes that most people are facing, almost inevitably people are moving to alternative forms of investment, more tangible assets, if you like. And of course, whiskey has always been a favorite for connoisseurs and collectors. But as your graph has just shown, there's enormous growth in the past 10 years of interest. And these days, mainstream, if you will, fund managers, even whiskey funds are being set up. So yes, the future's bright for whiskey as an investment form.
Can you tell me, when you buy a 72-year-old bottle, is that normally for investment? Do you save it or do you consume it?
At those prices, I certainly myself couldn't be able to afford to consume. No, these are specifically for investment purposes. Unless when something's retailing at around $50,000 a bottle, then you'd have to be fairly wealthy to be able to consume that. It is excellent whiskey, of course, but Premier Whisky was set up specifically for the investment market in the first place some years ago. We've been dealing mainly with our private clients, but of late we've recognized that with the growth of interest from serious investors, let's say funds, high net worth individuals and family offices looking for bigger return for a lower risk than can be the case in the whiskey market, then that's what we've set up to do. What?
I have a bunch of I have a bunch of single malt and aged whiskies sitting in the cupboard below. But do I just sit on them and just hope they appreciate in value, or is that there, I'm guessing, a lot more to it than just, like buying any old whiskey from the supermarket? What exactly determines what will make the whiskey appreciate?
Well, the one word you said there was old. Any old whiskey. An old whiskey is one of the the two things that add to the value, the rarity and the age. Now, in the normal marketplace, the age could be the age it was matured in the cask before it was put into the bottle. But we deal with the age of maturity in the cask. So the likelihood if you bought it in the supermarket that you have anything of investment value is pretty slim, I'm afraid. Yeah. But,
so Japanese whiskey has been incredibly, sorry, the time lag is terrible, isn't it? We always jump over each other. But Japanese whiskey has been very popular over the last decade. What do you think is going to be the style that collectors will want over the next decade, Bob?
Well, I'm bound to say, of course, that Scottish whiskey is forever. It's been a perennial, and I've seen no reason why it should fall out of fashion. Particularly since it's such a long history, long tradition, and there are as I said, there are collections of whiskey maturing to such a 60, 70 years of age, which is the top 1% where we deal. That essentially we'll buy a single cask of which is each and every cask is different, even if it's the same spirit at the same time put it together. That single cask will make about 300 bottles maximum. And those 300 bottles are a limited edition, and they will always be a limited edition. That can never be repeated. So the intrinsic value of purchasing such as that is self-evident.
Mm-hmm. Well, cheers to that. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bob McNabb of Premier Whisky. Tanveer, over to you. Do you like whiskey, Tanveer?
Guess what, Mandy? I was just thinking about that. For a person like me, I'm the kind of person who'll do cheers on masala chai from India. Very affordable and very enjoyable as well.